like getting out of my house and just going over to them and being like, "You're ruining football, get in your house."
What time is it? Is it too early for tequila?
Okay, I mean, we're not actually putting the vodka on the screen, you know, we're professionals. The voice of FIFA.
There we go.
Go on, Edge.
Oh my god! Do you actually believe what is going on in the world?
Take a time machine back to October, pitch side at Wembley, and someone said, "Hey, by the way, in March, all sports across the world are going to shut down." I would have looked at them like they're crazy, or they were talking about some scary movie.
I still can't get my head around it. Like, I actually don't have a job anymore, and not just because like I've lost my job or whatever. I've actually lost the industry that we work in. So we had the Premier League postponed about 2 weeks ago, but they keep pushing it back. So it was supposed to come back, I think it was like the 3rd of April or 4th of April, something like that. They've now pushed it back to the 19th, and I think it's just going to be like indefinitely put back now. But I can't see it coming back until like around September, because we just don't know how far these things are going to go. Like, China's only just stopped having cases of COVID-19 and they're still checking that daily. And that's been going on since, when was that? December?
Yeah.
Well, so
who knows how long?
Exactly, like how long's a piece of string? And also everybody in the UK we're supposed to be on lockdown right now. People are still going to the park, they're having picnics, they're literally not listening at all, and people are just out and about. And then we've got like the youths that are just hanging around in their gangs still, and it's like, no, seriously, like, you're prolonging this. Do you want football to come back? Like, I feel like getting out of my house and just going over to them and being like, "You're ruining football, get in your house. The longer you do this, it's not going to be here anymore."
Be a hero by sitting on the couch and not walking outside your front door. And you know, the thing that's really scary, and I think there's a lot of unknowns about this virus because it's a new strand. It's something completely different, and it's going to take some time for them to really understand how it works, how it spreads, how to cure it. Obviously, that's going to take a very long time. The thing that is so important, why people need to stay in their homes, is because a lot of people can have this virus and be asymptomatic. And
we've seen it in footballers over here in the Premier League as well. Callum Hudson-Odoi had it, and then there's managers and things. Everybody's testing for it, but that's the thing. None of us over here know who has it and who doesn't, because they're only offering tests to like certain people. So it's really annoying. Like, I feel like I may have already had it, but I'm not sure. But I'm just staying in my house in case. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to spread that around just in case I did have it or whatever. But I was at Cheltenham Festival, and there's been so many cases reported since then. So I'm just keeping in my house because, you know, just safer, isn't it?
Which is smart to do. And the thing is that this time in our lives, we all need to be selfless, and we need to think about other people besides ourselves. You know, if you get the virus and you're lucky enough to be asymptomatic or exhibit very little symptoms, then you're lucky, but not everyone's going to be as lucky as you. And what the whole world is facing is that we're beginning to run out of hospital beds. We're beginning to run out of ventilators. A lot of, if you watch the media all day long, it's very easy to buy into the fear.
Yeah, that's why I'm avoiding the media, really. I just watch what I need to. And it's like, I got a text from the government saying stay in your home. I'm like, yeah, I know that anyway, that's fine. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm a homebody anyway, so I'm like, look, this quarantine, like, oh, now my lifestyle actually has a name. Oh, quarantine, okay. So I'm fine with it, but I can understand that it's tough for people and their mental health and things. And, you know, we can only imagine what this is doing to the sports stars, especially the Olympics that got called off today, postponed. So that's just, they're going to be really finding that tough. Trained 4 years and now they have to wait another year, and they can't even go to the gyms and stuff. Like, you yourself, you did the Olympics, didn't you?
I did the Junior Olympics. But yes, I was on the Junior Olympics snowboard team. and did the Olympic trials. And so it's to imagine having to, the thing about Olympic sports is that you have very few competitions. You have, the Olympics are once every 4 years. People, their entire lives based around this sport and this one opportunity to perform. And suddenly the one opportunity that you get is now indefinitely postponed. It's a tremendous thing to have to deal with. And what are you going to do financially? Our whole entire world, not just sport, but everyone's dealing with this. And now athletes and all the money that Japan is going to lose, trillions, billions, I don't know about trillions, but there's a lot
and
of.
Not only that, but like the trademark name, like Japan 2020, they've said today that they're going to keep it as 2020 just probably because they've had so much stuff made that says Japan 2020,
right.
But
it's a crazy time, it was really interesting in, now that we're seeing a lot of athletes coming out saying that they have the virus, such as you mentioned, Callum, and we have Kevin Durant, Sean Payton, which is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, has it.
Whoa.
It's pretty nuts. And you get a lot of NBA players, and what's really crazy is they look at Staples Center in Los Angeles, which is one of the biggest sporting venues in America. The Staples Center is home to not only the Clippers, the LA Kings, the LA Lakers, and they also hosted, I think it was 39 events the Staples hosted after the first case of COVID was confirmed in America. And now that included the Grammy Awards as well as Kobe Bryant and Gianna's memorial service, which happened in February. But at that time, the case was, COVID was positive. There was the first case in America. So you look at, you can really sometimes trace back the exposure that people have to the virus to certain times. And this is one of them. And a lot of the guys that played in the NBA, the NBA was the first league in America to shut down. And then shortly thereafter, we had the MLS and NHL. And obviously the NFL is in the off season right now, but the teams are not having people come into the facilities for off season training, OTAs. So it's a tremendous and crazy time that has never been experienced before in sport across the world. And the way that these leagues are going to have to shift the way they do business is going to be really interesting.
And also with the NFL, we have draft coming up.
A lot of athletes don't actually go to the draft because sometimes guys will want to be at home with their families. So they'll do a live broadcast from home, which I presume will be what's going to happen with most of these athletes, is that they'll just have cameras at home with their families. But yet again, let's talk about social distancing. I mean, you have a big draft party with your family, and in America, you have gatherings that are limited to a certain amount of people, depending on the state. Now, we have governors in each state that are imposing different rules and regulations.
Over here, we're not allowed a gathering of more than 2 people. So,
right.
So yourself and somebody else. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm sure we're probably going to see a lot of athletes with a family member and having a camera live stream and when they get the call. And I think that's really going to be the answer. But I mean, it's pretty crazy because you look at the NFL Combine still happened, but they canceled all the pro days. So for those who aren't familiar with the draft process, athletes, you get a small percentage of the tip top athletes that are invited to the NFL Combine, where they're able to showcase their skills and interview with all the teams and coaches. The guys that don't get invited resort to their pro days, which their universities or their schools host, which is basically a smaller version of the Combine, but all the pro days have been canceled. So now you're looking at, you have this pool of young talent trying to enter the NFL.
So how are they going to judge that then? Are they just going to look back at their collegiate statistics, or?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a combination where either players are going to test privately with 1 or 2 people, where you'll test your 40, or have like a live streaming.
When you say the 40, do you mean the 40-yard dash?
40-yard dash, yeah, yes, correct.
Just in case people aren't clear.
Yeah. When the players compete in the Combine, I wouldn't say compete, but I guess it is compete. They do a series of physical performance tests, including the 40-yard dash.
I did it last year.
You did?
I did it with the NFL Academy. Guys, I will link that video after this one if you want to go and watch that. It's quite funny, actually. Yeah, it was tough going. Have you ever done it?
Yeah, I did. I used to do combine preparation training for athletes. So I did all of that type of stuff.
It's harder than it looks. These guys make it look so easy. I was like, wow, this is difficult. Yeah, I'm never going to make it as a sports person. This is why I talk about sport, because I'm useless. I ain't here for that. Anything that breaks the sweat, I'm like, I'm good. I'm going to sit on the bench.
It's going to be really interesting. I don't think anyone has an actual solution. I think everyone at this point is kind of waiting and trying to be creative. And I feel bad for these guys that are coming into the league this year. I mean, it's what an unfair thing to happen. And everything happens for a reason. But, I mean, it's, you know, the guys that we work with, they're just tremendously positive, and they're still training in garages and basements and, you know, their local track fields. And I think that's really all you can do at this point. It's going to be a lot of, again, our entire world is facing this together. We're all in this together. And I think it's going to be a lot of people coming together to create unique solutions and be able to still give these guys the opportunity that they've waited their whole life for, you know?
I don't understand with the NFL. I really don't understand why they haven't pushed back like the start of the season, so therefore they could do the draft later and do the combines later. Like, I don't understand why they're not putting things on hold when, you know, over here we have the Premier League putting things on hold. The National League has even cancelled the rest of the season. So over here we're doing quite a bit on that. But I mean, yeah, with the NFL, I really would have thought that they would want to do everything properly, not just sort of half-hearted. And especially with the combine, if that's going to be messing up teams and, you know, people aren't going to be getting their fair chances, I just feel like they should be pushing that back a little bit. Do you think that they should do that too, or?
I think that at this point, there's still time, right? So you look at players report for training camp. We're talking late July, early August. Now it's April, basically. So we still have a couple months. So I think at some point, yes, that will happen. But again, I think teams are waiting to see what happens with this pandemic. Are we going to get this under control? And quite frankly, America now has the steepest incline in terms of new cases, deaths. We're quickly passing a lot of other countries. And it's, you know, it's going to be a while until we get this pandemic under control. And I think,
but
again,
is that because America's one of the biggest countries that is affected at the moment, so obviously the stats are going to be higher,
right? And you look at these young stupid kids that were in Florida, in Miami on spring break, and we're talking hundreds if not thousands of kids right next to each other. And that's the problem, because, you know, obviously now you're seeing a lot more. I think in Italy, you're seeing a lot of people in their 30s and 40s now in hospital beds, and this does affect the youth. And originally people thought that if you're young and healthy, you don't get affected, but there is a chance that you can be affected. And the problem is, if you get the virus and you're asymptomatic and you go out and you see your grandparents or your parents or
passing it,
you're, you know, these people that aren't as lucky and may have pre-existing health conditions aren't going to be able to handle this as well as someone who's young and healthy. And that's the problem. And so it's really comes down to us as individuals realizing that we're all in this together, and that, yeah, it sucks to be confined in your home for a month or 2 months or shoot, who knows how long this is going to go. But at the end of the day, we want to get our lives back on track. This is what people have to do, you know?